Hello everyone. We will be starting the panel soon, like now. So we've somehow managed to figure out how to stream just using an iPhone instead of all of our fancy equipment. So it's great. Sometimes the simplest things are the best things. So firstly, welcome to week 2 of UQCS. It's great to have all of you guys here. Just out of curiosity, how many of you guys are first years, so new to UQ? Lovely, that's a very good group of you guys. So you may have noticed that you're all sitting at tables. So it's sort of a way for us to sort of get you guys to get to know some other first years, which is awesome. So some good socialization happening in UQCS, love to see it. So we do have a panel today, so how it's going to work is we'll have a 30-minute panel session where Sonia, our treasurer, she will be asking our 6 wonderful panelists some questions, and then after that you guys can ask your own questions, and after that we'll have pizza. So yeah, really fun night ahead of us. So I'll hand it over to Sonia to start the panel.
Hello, testing. Okay, good to see some familiar faces around. Okay, I will get into the first question. So, tell us a bit about yourself. What degree you're studying, what year you're in, where you're currently working, your pastimes, etc.
Yeah, so I'm Miriam. Oh, what's this? It's good. Yeah, it's good. I'm Miriam. I'm a computer science student. I'm pretty much done my degree now. I'm graduating in July. And I'm currently tutoring 2 courses at the moment, so DECO 2500, which is human-computer interaction, and DECO 3800, which is proposal. I'm also interning at Datawi, which is a medtech startup working on a natural language processing project. And in the past, I've worked as a data analyst at an insurance company. I was also really heavily involved with UQ Ladies in Technology, and I finished up my presidency last year. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Anton. I study computer science. I will graduate at the end of this year, God willing. And, I am a tutor for Comp 3400. I work at the Department of Environment and Science. In the past, I interned at Mycelium, which was like this crypto company. That's me.
Hi, I'm Anshul. I'm currently in my 3rd year doing software engineering. I come here as part of a 2+2 exchange program where I was doing 2 years in India, and this is like my 3rd year, so I'll be doing 2 years at UQ. It's been 6 months since I've come over here, and it's been a lovely experience. Yeah.
Hello, for those who don't know me, I'm James, or Jimmy. I'm ex-UQCS president back in 2021, for anyone who was still around then. And I graduated mid last year and am now a senior software developer for also the Department of Environment and Science. These days, I still happen to be here forever and working on the infrastructure for UQCS, but also just hanging out in the Discord, and yeah, that's me.
Hey, I'm Ali. I'm in a dual degree of the Bachelor and Masters of Engineering, majoring in software, and I just started my 3rd year.
Hi, my name's Gabe. I am a 2nd year student at UQ, so I think that makes me the youngest one here. I am doing a dual degree with Maths and Computer Science, and yeah, that's about me. I'm kind of into both.
Awesome. Okay, I'll go on to the next question then. So, what are your guys' favourite courses and least favourite courses that you've taken at UQ?
I think content-wise for me, it was probably Comp 4702, which is the machine learning course. And this is, not everyone agrees with this because not everyone loves the way the assessment is structured for this, and I do have to agree, I'm not a big fan of weekly assessment either. But I really liked how it drew on concepts that I really enjoyed in my math courses and my stat courses, and also that it related to the things that I was doing at work. So at that point in time, I was working on clustering projects at work, So I liked how it gave me an appreciation of the theory that I was learning. And also learning on the job can be quite fast paced sometimes, so it was nice to have that like constant revision at uni as well. So yeah, that was my favourite course. I think my least favourite course, and this wasn't the most painful course that I took, it was just my least favourite, was probably INFS 1200 because it was pretty dry, like I just didn't like the content that much. But yeah, those are my favourite and least favourite.
I think I like courses based on the staff mostly, so it sort of changes year to year. My favorite course was probably, I took an aesthetic philosophy course as an elective, and arts courses are just taught better because I think it's all of the CS graduates go and get jobs and arts graduates stay here. So, I like also Comp 3400, I liked a lot. I am teaching it now. Paul Verbeek is just a king. We really like him, so I liked that course because he was teaching it. I didn't like 1072. I won't call out the lecturer, but it was really poorly taught, so I really didn't enjoy it.
So it's been 6 months, so I've done like a few courses. My least favorite was CSSE 2002. It was quite poorly managed, given like the debacle that happened and the CCAT scores. Yeah, you can figure it out. My favorite course was CSSE 2010. It was really well managed compared to CSSE 2002. Yeah. And in general, I mean, like CSSE 2010 was just like a fun course to do because like it wasn't so much into like software side of it. Like they actually covered like the electronics part of it, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, that's about it.
So I have two favorite courses. First course is Comp 4403, Compilers Interpreters. Ian, who I don't think takes a course anymore, was incredibly awesome even over COVID. We feel bad that we weren't able to attend his lectures because he always used to give out biscuits in tubes, which is incredibly wholesome. And the other course is CSSE 3100, Reasoning About Programs. Graham is awesome. He really cares about everyone in the course, and a couple of people in this room definitely still work for Graham because he also does a bit of this stuff for research. My least favorite course was Comms 3200, Computer Networks 1. The assessments were like ridiculously stupid. I know I'm at UQ, but I'm just gonna say it. They just weren't fun. They were long and weird, and the content was okay, but it was also dry. So those are my picks.
My least favourite courses probably Maths 1051 and 1700. I just could not get behind the content, and I struggled and I didn't ask for help, which is on me, but like I just found them so boring. And my most favourite courses are anything to do with group work. So my Deco courses in particular, like Deco 2500 was so fun, and I just started Deco 3800 and that's looking really good as well with like great staff, as someone else said. So yeah.
Yeah, so because I swing more on the math side, more of my favorite courses are over there. In particular, I really liked Math 1071. That's not a course for everyone, but I really did enjoy that. I think Artem is a giga chad. And I really liked the follow-up Math 2401. Masood is a giga chad. Yeah, with regards to actually the computer science half of my degree though, because that's kind of why most of us are here, I really enjoyed CSSE 2010 as well, and I now tutor that, and I'm enjoying tutoring that as well. I took CSSE 2002 right before the organizational issues started, so I don't know, I found that one okay and enjoyable. Yeah, I'm not quite much of an INFS 1200 enjoyer, and I really didn't enjoy doing a stats course in my first year.
Yeah, look, they weren't kidding about 2002. That is shambles right there. Anyways, next question. For those who have been employed in the tech field, how did you land your first tech job?
Yeah, so my first like proper, I guess, tech job, I landed through a networking event that I wasn't supposed to be at. So it was in 2020, and they were running high frequency networking, which is an event that UQCS runs as well. and they were running it online, and someone dropped out of the event last minute, so there was capacity, and I joined on. And so one of the rotations that they had, so you got to network with companies for 10 minutes at a time, and one of the companies was NTI, which stands for National Transport Insurance, and they were talking about this undergrad program where they were going to rotate students around, their actuary, business insights and data science teams, and they were like, oh, reach out to us if you're interested, and I was like, I'm very interested, so I emailed them and sort of reached out and, did a phone screen, an interview, and then got the job. Yeah.
I applied to like hundreds, I think, of jobs just cold, and this was second year, and no one even sent me an email back. And then I was walking to a CS event, a UQCS event, and there's this Leo Orapella. He's like an alumni now, but he's like goated in the club. And I think I was like, oh, I'm looking for a job, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm about to quit, you can have mine. I was like, oh, okay. And I went in and interviewed, and it was like super smooth process. Yeah, that's what
So I'll briefly touch on my first IT job because it is tech sector. I'm not sure if everyone here is purposely studying computer science for the developer panel, for the developer part. So I found a job for doing IT work for a company in North Brisbane, I won't mention names, which was an incredibly good experience, except very hard. I found out through UQCS's jobs bulletin, and so definitely keep an eye on that. The job I have now, which came from a previous job in the same department, I found through UQCS as well. Leo Orapella, shout out, he'll hate us calling him out, but he'll hear about it later. And Matt Lowe, who's also a UQCS alumni, we got the job through them. And then since then, I've been working there, slowly moving up the ranks, and now I'm senior of the team, so yeah.
Okay, I guess that's all for that question. Okay, did you work, Did you work, are you working throughout your uni degree? Would you recommend it?
Yeah, so I worked for the majority of my degree, and I would recommend it. So for most of first year, I will say I wasn't working extensively. I was only doing around 5 hours a week, tutoring primary school kids. It wasn't a huge gig or anything like that. I will say that working a job that was kind of related to what I was studying was really useful in terms of consolidating my knowledge, but also I think it was really important in helping me develop some very crucial interpersonal skills that I wasn't really getting the chance to build at uni. So being able to really present things or assert yourself in a crowd of people who are much older than you, all these things that you don't really get to do at uni. But yeah, I would recommend it. I will say though, I feel not working super hard in my first year allowed me to spend the time that I needed understanding the fundamentals of programming and that sort of thing. And I feel if I was working really long hours, I don't know if I would have been able to do that. So yes and no a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I sort of agree. It depends if it's a programming-ish job. If it's just working at Macca's, I'd avoid it if I can. I did really badly in my first 2 years of uni, and that's probably why I cold applied to all those jobs and they just rejected me. But then I took a semester off, landed a job through doing projects and stuff, and then once I had a job and I had a bit of momentum, things at uni started to get better. So yeah, I'd say definitely try and, if you can get a job in your degree, you make friends and you get experience. It's all wins, I think.
So I worked through my whole degree. It was relatively tough. For my first year, I actually commuted from the Gold Coast, so I had 4 days at uni, 3 days at Macca's, and somehow commuted to Brisbane and all that. Wouldn't recommend that whatsoever. In the second year, I moved to Brisbane and got a new job. So I would recommend it, but also know that it is a big time commitment. A lot of places do expect you to work 2 days a week, and that's quite hard to fit between your degree, where you sort of have to fit that into 3 days and maybe skip lectures. So definitely would recommend it. As the others have said, working in the industry does help a lot and actually is a bit less difficult than it is to work at Macca's, as Anton said. But yeah, it might not be for everyone, particularly if you're doing full time, but you know, I would recommend it.
So I'm not at Macca's, but I am at Coles. I have been for the whole time I've been at UQ. For me, I really like it, and I would recommend it if you can balance it, because although it is still work, it's like a different kind of work and productivity, and you get to talk to and interact with people that you wouldn't normally meet like at uni. And obviously, like the income, the independence is so good as well. So I would recommend it if you can balance it.
Yeah, similar to what everyone else has said, I mostly agree on the, excuse me, on the claim that if you can balance it, then it's something that you should do. It gives you a lot of opportunities, having money floating around, you know, go out with your friends, save up for something. It's just overall better to have opportunities rather than not to. But again, don't do it at the expense of your studies, because you know there's no point studying for a semester if you're not going to understand anything and then have it affect something down the chain, or worse, if you fail and have to do the semester again. Yeah, so last year I worked a fast food job. I worked at Guzman y Gomez, that's GYG. I am also of Latin American heritage, so it was really gratifying to work in an environment that really celebrated that culture. And again, it's also a different kind of work to the sort of stuff that you do at uni, so it provided a sort of release when I was overburdened with assignments and yada yada yada, and thinking really hard. I could just go roll burritos for like 7 hours and then go home. Yeah, that said, semester 2 last year, I was doing 4 days at uni, 3 days at the job as well. Fortunately, I wasn't commuting from the Gold Coast. And that absolutely drained me. I was holding out for the mid-semester break, which for some reason was at like 2/3 through the semester. Because I hadn't had a day off until then. So yeah, really make sure that you can balance it. Since then, I've moved on. I'm doing tutoring here now. That is much better because again, you're working kind of within the sort of region that you're studying. So that means that you're not kind of training yourself at 2 skills. It means you're just being really good at one. And if you're already good at one because you studied it, then the work becomes easier. That's what I think.
Awesome. Okay. Next question. Is there anything you wish you did differently, degree-wise, career-wise, uni-wise, etc.?
I think if I could go back and maybe change anything, it might have been the order in which I did my internship. So I wish I'd sort of gotten more experience in software development or software engineering roles earlier on, as opposed to in more of an analytics field, because I feel like it would have been easier for me to pivot into an analytics role from a development background than it would for me to go into a development background, development role now, if that makes sense. So maybe switching up the order of that, but that's not to say that like I can't still go down that path if I want to. It's just a little bit harder now for me. Another thing as well would be maybe taking more care to ensure that I was doing activities that were replenishing my energy, as well as, you know, all of the other things that I was doing, because at a certain point in the semester it gets really hard to keep up everything, and things just get a lot harder if you're not doing activities that recharge you as much. So yeah, I wish I'd learnt that lesson a little bit earlier than I did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that second one. Doing things to outside of uni to like, I found that I started doing a lot better in uni when the rest of my life sort of got sorted. And when I was doing poorly in uni, the rest of my life was in shambles. It's, in terms of like decisions for courses and stuff, I think you want to make sure you're loading your courses correctly, where you query UQCS academic advice chat and ask about courses and how hard they are, and try and take mostly easy courses and then one hard course. If you want to do any hard courses at all, you can always just take the road more traveled. There's no shame in it. Avoid the advanced courses and ones that people say are hard, and you'll get a degree anyway. But if you do want to take a hard course, just like make sure you take some deco courses with it.
For me, I think so. Since I was like in India for like my first 2 years, my experience was a bit different in the sense that everything like I'm not too sure how things panned out over here in Australia, but like there was like a whole lockdown that happened and we were like stuck in our like houses for like I guess like 2 years for at least for me. And while I was at home, I had like a lot of free time, and I could have like allocated my time properly during like that period. There were like many opportunities that came by, so there like some like fellowship programs like from MLH, and then you can like contribute like in open source communities and sort of network with people. And that's something that I realized was like one of my biggest regrets, because it is only now that I started like working in open source, doing some good work so that I can give back to the community. And that's something I feel like we can always like try to do like from our first year itself, because it gives you like a huge exposure. Like you can like connect with like global communities, and yeah, I mean like there's like a whole rant that I have like for it. But yeah, just try to be as active as you can with your local communities. Try to give back, do some good work, and yeah, that's all right.
So for most of my degree, I was pretty time poor. With first year community for the coast, and then onwards from third year onwards, pretty much I was on UQCS committee as well. So one lesson that I learned very late, and people talk about a little bit, is going down to 3 subjects if you can do it, because I know some people have restrictions around that. It's still full time, but it gives you that little bit of extra time that I really wish I had, because I missed out on the opportunities of joining other social clubs. Shout out SMAC. But it's just that extra time that I didn't necessarily have. But in terms of my degree itself, I wouldn't change anything. I still really enjoyed the 2 years pretty much I was on committee, and doing the courses in the way I did, because I also dropped down from electrical engineering to software engineering, and then gave up that, and then jumped to computer science. Yeah, one other thing as well I will mention is I did fail a couple of courses early on as well. So it's just, it is a bit of that time thing. If you don't think you can handle 4 courses, there is no shame in taking your degree a little bit longer and spending that extra time to a little bit more study or free time and just bettering yourself, because you know your uni experience will last you a lifetime.
As someone doing the 3 courses route, absolutely, I wish I'd done it sooner. The extra time for both to dedicate to those courses and to other things in life is so valuable. And on that note, asking for help, like I didn't really know how to ask for help first year, and I really wish I'd done that in practice and asked the stupid questions, because it's really, really important. You will come across stuff you don't understand, and you don't want to get stuck in that until it just snowballs. And another thing is, for the engineering students, I did the flexible first year, which means I did some other things that weren't software. And while like that was good to learn about those things, I wish I just stuck to software from the start, because I did the N1700 and hated it, and it almost like threw off my whole engineering thing. So yes.
Yeah, alright. So, you know, having only been here a year, I don't have much that I can wish to have gone back and changed, but I do still have some pointers. I was very fortunate. I think I've picked the degree that I want to stick with. I don't think I'll need to change stuff down the line, but, you know, then again, I'm still figuring stuff out as I go. Maybe things change. Uni is very flexible, so it's okay to do that. I will remark, especially regarding first year. So first year, first semester, every tutorial sucks. First year, second semester, you know who your friends are, you've organized to go to the same tutorials with your friends. Every tutorial that you have friends in doesn't suck. And it's as simple as that. So it varies from course to course, but you can usually go to different tutorials from what you're assigned, so long as there's space. And again, it's not one of those courses where this sort of thing matters. So if you can organize to be around your friends and you're going to be happy around your friends, then, you know, give that a go. Oh man, as a first year course tutor who hasn't done their first tutorial yet, my biggest fear is that everyone is going to be dead silent because I know that's how I was in my first semester. So yeah, if not for first semester, definitely for second semester, get stuff with your friends. It is just infinitely nicer once you do that. Another pointer I have is that I really enjoy going to lectures in person. That's not something that everyone enjoys, but it really gives you the opportunity to actually see your friends' faces and to also network with people and even to connect with the lecturers. There's lots of interesting things that they do that you wouldn't really find out if you didn't have that opportunity to talk to them. So yeah, if I had gone back, probably just get friends in first semester tutorials.
Okay, I think we're going to open it to the floor now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around, give you the mic, and then you can ask your question. If you have a general question, I suppose our panelists can answer, but if you have a specific question for someone, just say their name and then the question, okay? So is there any questions? Any at all? Okay, we got one.
While Sonia's walking to that, extra thing I wanted to mention on top of the getting help thing is UQ's got a ton of extra support for people who are struggling with mental health and disabilities and anything. So if you are struggling, again, early on, get that help. It is, Eli, it is on the My UQ website.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything's there. So if you do need help, my advice is absolutely get it early and it's there for you to help. Anyway.
And the counselling is free. And SAPs are super easy. Like seriously, they want to help you. Don't be scared.
Hey, this is particularly for Anton. I know you've done some philosophy courses. What are your thoughts on taking electives during your degree, and what electives should I kind of be thinking about?
Definitely take electives. You could just take a computer science degree, or you could like be a full human being. I recommend the philosophy ones. They're really good. I'm taking a linguistics one now. Languages are fun. The econ subjects are a breeze if you just want to go brain dead for like half an hour a week. You can do those ones.
Okay, any questions? Any other ones? Okay.
So just like a general question, how do you suggest we approach like internships and like jobs and stuff?
Mic's been handed to me. So I think a great place to start is looking at events that might be happening at university. So corporate events are great for that sort of thing. UQCS does some great corporate events. UQ Ladies in Technology also does some great corporate events. And it's a really great way to just meet employers, see what's out there. It's never too early to start looking. Even if you feel like you're underqualified or like you're in your first year and no one's going to want to hire you, it's always really useful to have those contacts in mind. And also just getting a feel for the things that they're after. So if there's a specific position or kind of internship you're interested in doing at a kind of company, you can always ask about the kinds of skills they're looking for, whether that's technical or interpersonal, and find ways to sort of build those up. Another great way to sort of prime yourself for internships is doing side projects. If you're currently in a position where you're not getting any internships, I say this, but I have very few side projects, so I'm probably not the best person to be giving this kind of advice. But yeah, side projects are also great for helping build up a portfolio of work you can then show to employers.
Okay. Any other questions?
James wants to add to that.
Oh, you want to? Okay.
I will add to that. Hash Jobs Bulletin, Hash Jobs discussion. There are a lot of UQCS alumni out there, notably myself. There's Canva, Canva's not a sponsor. Atlassian, quick, what are our sponsors? Yes. Another good point is me and Anton got jobs through knowing people in UQCS. So even just talking to other people, and I guess I don't like the word networking, but just like making friends in UQCS, because those connections allow you to get referrals, and those referrals can help you skip that initial step when going for internships. And it doesn't also hurt to ask for potential referrals from people inside UQCS if you've talked to them a little bit. I know some people aren't necessarily super keen just to message someone out of the blue, but some UQCS alumni do encourage you to do that. So yeah, make sure you use, I should mention Lit as well, and there's a couple of other tech clubs that aren't coming to mind at the moment, but take advantage of the clubs that are around.
I just actually have a question myself. Gabriel, now this guy is infamous because he is, wow, he helped me so much in Math 1061. He helped, it's amazing. So my question is, like, what is your study technique? What do you do, like how are you so good? I don't understand. I seriously don't. You could ask him anything and he'd just know it. Like, it really boggled me, but.
Okay, so that depends on a subject by subject basis, and it depends mostly on whether or not I know stuff in that area.
Right.
So
Did you know a lot of discrete maths?
Not particularly, but I did get my hands on the textbook for Math 1061, and I had a little look at least at the logic stuff, and 1061 starts with logic, which of course overlaps logic gates from computer science as well, so there was a lot of overlap there. I'm also just very curious in mathematics, so I happen to know a bunch of stuff that was in that course as well. So for that one, and whenever I know something, it's mostly just, you know, reading ahead if I have the time, taking notes as well. I like to take the notes in ways that make sense for me. So that took me an entire year to work out, but I've now got a very, very rigid system, which is great for someone that, you know, thinks in a computer science mathematics way. But yeah, with anything that I know also, you mentioned the Ed board. The Ed discussion board, by the way, for any courses that use it, fantastic place to post questions. And if you know the answer to a question or can help with a question, you can post an answer as a student yourself. And that's what I did to study for most of Math 1061.
Yeah.
As soon as you know as soon as you know something, you know something. But as soon as you can explain it to someone else, you know it really, really well, right? So yeah, explaining to others is a really good way to deepen your understanding of something. If it's a course where I don't quite know stuff as much, I tend to kind of like ask for help myself and make sure I'm taking notes, and I don't know, I ask more questions in that course. I've dispelled my fear of asking questions as much as I can dispel my fear of asking questions, and that helps when I don't know things.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Yep.
Well, first is why aesthetics?
I just looked at the philosophy course list and it was the one that looked most interesting. It's run by the head of philosophy, and she's just this queen. She's like sits up the front of the class and just sort of controls this conversation. And all the tutorials aren't like, they're not like teaching you as much as like the class is like learning. It's awesome. I just take it. Just take it and you'll understand.
The other question I have is, what technical and non-technical skills would you recommend developing, pun intended?
I don't understand the pun.
This one's for the board as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think just like coding is good, and then go to UQCS events and talk to people. I don't know how important like spelling and writing and stuff are, but like talking to people is really good. I've found a lot of use in that, I think.
So in terms of like non-technical skills, I think one thing that really helped me was putting myself in situations that I felt a reasonable amount of discomfort, and that for me was public speaking. And so I made a conscious effort to do that as much as possible over the course of my degree, whether that was through like in-class presentations or the work that I did for societies and things like that. And it just helped me present myself better at networking events and, you know, present a level of confidence that I didn't necessarily have at the time. But yeah, putting yourself in situations where you're forced to use a skill you're not super comfortable using is a good skill to have.
I agree in terms of like the non-technical skills, like you should be able to put yourself out there and just like show people that like, okay, yeah, I mean like just having like the soft skills to like network and all those are like really crucial. In terms of technical skills, I would say command line interface, that's something that you should know in like your first year. I guess Docker and Kubernetes, those are like some things that like they're like great to like learn because they help you like in scaling your projects quite well. Yeah.
As someone who's been involved in hiring people more recently, a couple of things I look for is, as a non-technical one, communication. Communication is so crucial in the industry. If I can't talk to someone and not get back what they're trying to communicate, then it makes everything harder, it slows things down. So if you can clearly communicate what you're doing and what you're trying to say and, you know, documentation, all the things that go with it, that's an incredibly valuable skill. In terms of the technical side, I personally am quite language agnostic in the tech space. No controversial opinion, no one cares if you like Rust or C++, it doesn't matter, or Haskell, but if you can apply those skills of knowing multiple languages to a new problem and a new code base you've never seen before and be able to get up to speed quickly and potentially even learn a new language, that's invaluable, and you will find for the rest of your careers there'll be new languages and new tooling, and Kubernetes and Docker and that are the current things now, but what's going to be the next 10 years, so learning on the job as well is incredibly crucial.
I know a couple have said coding, and more on that, rather than trying to like just memorize all the syntax of as many languages as you can, focus on like the logic and the principles behind it. Like for me personally, I know pseudocode really helped in to pick up other languages really quickly, because you just got to understand like one instruction at a time, yes or no, simple loops, stuff like that will help with so many other languages.
Yeah, understanding how to think algorithmically before trying to go memorize syntax of every language ever is definitely the way to go. It's no use knowing how to technically write a language if you aren't any good at communicating in that language. Like, you wouldn't want to learn the grammar for Mandarin Chinese if you had no idea how to communicate a message in Mandarin Chinese. So yeah, definitely focus on learning the logic of stuff first. Another note while we're on sort of the coding side, please actually comment. I recently picked up a project that I had a look at. I didn't understand a word of the associated paper with it, so I went to the code underneath to try and figure out how it was making this really cool image that I wanted to study. And nothing makes sense. It has taken me a day just to figure out how like 5 lines work, because I call other things, it's really a pain. Please comment so that you can communicate to other people how your code is working. Fuel to that, if you learn to comment well, you learn to communicate, which, as others have expressed, is a really, really useful skill to have, even like both as a soft skill and as a technical skill when you're writing code. From a student perspective, some of the good stuff that you should know as a student, figure out how you like to learn, experiment with that a little while you're in your first year, and things don't quite matter as much. And then once you've got that, sorted out, it benefits you a lot, right? Yeah, I think that's all I have to add on that.
Okay. Any other questions?
This might be a bit of a new question, but I was wondering if any of you guys use any AI tooling in your developing, and any tips you might have for students to sort of prepare for themselves for that in the future.
we had a conversation at work a couple of weeks ago about this, and it is interesting, but one of my comments on it really is there's no use trying to understand the AI tooling if you can't yourself understand how to code, because you can generate almost anything with ChatGPT or Bing or whatever else is out there at the moment. GitHub Copilot, I should say, actually. But if you don't understand what that code's doing, then you don't know what you've just written, essentially. And you could be doing something potentially dangerous, or it could be doing something, it could be doing something quite well. But you don't know that unless you understand the general gist of what you're writing. Another point is the ethics behind it, but I'm not going to go into that now because that's a long topic. But just note that you should be understanding what that code is outputting, rather than just taking that code, throwing it into whatever, and throwing that into your assignment is questionable with misconduct.
I love it. It's awesome. You can just, especially if we were talking about being language agnostic and sort of not really knowing how to code, but sort of just knowing algorithms. That's really is made a lot easier with GitHub Copilot. You can just comment what you want it to do, and it'll do it for you. And I don't think it's gonna take my job. I hope it doesn't. But yeah, definitely, I don't know, it's a bit of fun. Why not try it out? It's free. Oh, don't try it out in your assignments though. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I actually have two. My first one's a bit specific, so I don't really expect anybody to know the answer to this because it's a new course, but I was just curious if anybody knew anything about the Intro to Data Science course, like Data 2001, I think it's called. Okay, good thing I had a second question. So you guys mentioned projects before, just like volunteering projects, I assume you mean. Just, is there any good way to find these, like, and browse things that might be like best towards skill sets?
Do the hackathon. It's sort of not a good way of finding a project, but if you're put in a room and you're like, oh, I need to come up with a project right now, you'll come up with something. That's it.
As Anton said, hackathons are like some of the better ways of like making projects. And in case you ever feel like there's like less number of hackathons, you can always find like online hackathons. There's a organization called MLH. They have this global hack week that's like happening like every single month, in which they ask you to make some side projects and have some workshops in which you can actually like make some pretty decent projects. And I feel like those are like some of the great ways of like making a project. Along with that, I guess you can just follow like some tutorials if you feel interested in making the project, and yeah.
Maybe say what hackathon is, actually.
Oh yeah, so for those who don't know, hackathons, which UQCS runs every second semester, get excited, is usually 2 to 3 days of you sit down and you try and build something awesome. Some hackathons have topics, so GovHack is one that prioritizes government open data. UQCS hackathon usually is open, you can do whatever you want. Code Network, our friends across the river at QUT, also run their winter hackathon. They usually have a theme of some description, so definitely get on board with that. Hash hackathons is still a thing, I believe, in Discord. I'm going to hash shill for a moment and say UQCS open source repos. UQCS bot, if you haven't met it, is open source, and we do look for new ideas, and we are more than happy to help you most of the steps of the way to get your feet wet with open source contributions. So feel free to ping me in the hash bot testing if you have any questions about it. I'm happy to help you. Another thing with projects as well is I found that I used to just build really small things for, like, if I had a problem that I wanted to fix, or like had some weird thing that I wanted to automate. Just doing those and putting those on your GitHub people find those and are incredibly useful, but also show that you do go out and do experiment with some things. So definitely, if you write something, definitely consider putting it on GitHub.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I just want to ask about in terms of the work and study balancing. How do you have any strategies or suggestion you can give, yeah, to balance things out? Yeah.
Yeah, so, excuse me. So last semester 2 of my first year, again, I was doing 4 days of uni and then 3 days of work, and I had no break until the mid-semester break. That is very bad. You need at least 1 day to decompress and not be constantly going all the time. Being stressed every day is just horrible, and having just any time for yourself is so beneficial to your mental health and to how you're able to focus on things. As soon as you've got stuff more clear up here, you're freeing up the resources to actually focus on the things that you want to get done, right? It's that simple. So I was doing, I think, nearly 20 hours a week of work on top of 4 courses at uni, and look, that was just too much. So, you know, while you can, try and figure out where your limits are with balancing in your first year subjects and against whatever work you have. Try and push them a little, realize when you're pushing it too much, and then pull yourself back.
Treating uni as, like, university is sort of a black box and you can just pour time into it. You can always do more questions. Some assignments you can always make better. So you kind of have to limit how much you can actually put in. I think treating it as a 9 to 5 is like a pretty good strategy, just saying, I'm gonna go to uni and I'm gonna work until 5 p.m. and then I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna do it at home. I'm not gonna, I don't know, keep coding right through the night. That's just a way to burn yourself out. And we're all here to be happy, really. Like, you can get a 7, but did you have fun? So.
Sorry, I would just say as well, because once you start working, or the more things I guess you put into your calendar, the less time you're going to have for certain things. So making sure that when you are studying or when you are working, that you're doing it in an environment that allows you to stay focused. For me, that was finding people to study with, finding a place where I wasn't, you know, only accountable to myself really helped. So really holding yourself accountable to other people as well can really simplify the act of just sitting down and doing your work, because you will find that the more responsibilities you have, whether that's work or extracurriculars, the less inclined you'll feel to actually do your work. So having strategies in place to help you cross that activation energy threshold really helps as well.
Okay.
I've got one more thing to add to that. Who watches CGP Grey? Anyone? Okay, go watch, if you haven't watched it, Spaceship U. It is an incredibly great video about like making sure that certain spaces in your life are for certain things. It really helped me with sit down at my desk, I need to study. If I'm sitting on the couch, that's free time. Bed, sleep. That's right, sleep. Nothing else, just sleep. It's a great video and is pretty much how I run my life now, and particularly for study, it really helps me with being able to sit down and just study for the time I need to study.
Any other questions? Yep.
Just before we get to that, I'd like to add with regards to managing work and uni life as well. I know it sounds stupid and it's the thing that all the adults rag on about, but sleep is important. And I know as people, particularly around this age, are like, oh, I can stay up until 3 in the morning and then I get 4 hours of sleep, that's okay. I have an 8 a.m. lecture, it'll work out. No, not really. And as soon as you add more and more stuff to your calendar, you know, if your day is I go to uni at 8 a.m. and then I finish uni at 4 p.m. then I rush off to my job at 5:30 and then I'm doing my job until 10 p.m. No, actually until 12 p.m. That was me in first semester. Then you lose out on sleep, and as soon as you lose out on sleep, you lose out on focus the next day. And if you lose out on focus the next day and sleep the next day, you lose out on 2 points of focus the next day. And, you know, over the course of a semester, you hit rock bottom.
Okay.
So, when choosing like an elective that doesn't relate to my degree, is it okay to choose like one that's more than a 1000 level course, or should I stick to the introduction ones?
So in my first year, I did CSSE 2002, sorry, first year, first semester. That's not technically an elective, but yeah, it's generally fine to go up the chain. Just make sure that you're not missing dependencies before that, right? It's no use taking a second course in machine learning if you have no idea what machine learning is, and that's the point of the first course, right? So yeah, it's generally fine as long as it's within the requirements of your program. I shouldn't say requirements. If it's something that is admissible by the program you're studying, and you're not putting yourself at a disadvantage having not studied the prerequisites. I bring up the prerequisites in particular because some schools, like the School of Math and Physics, aren't very strict on the prerequisites. But, you know, they are listed for a reason.
I'll just disagree. Don't do that. I think, why make your life hard? You can just take it later. There are maybe some exceptions that are like higher level courses that are really easy, but just take the first ones first.
Okay, any other questions?
So you guys mentioned like taking easier courses for to help with like making it easier for like to graduate. What would the easiest courses that you guys know be?
Econ 1010 is a consistent. I actually didn't take Econ 1010, but it is a UQCS staple in the recommendation bucket for easy courses. Generally, first year courses are the easiest ones you can get away with. Hash academic advice will help you with that. CS courses, I don't 100% know because the programs have changed a little bit, but Deco 1400 is maybe or maybe not a requirement for some degrees. That is a fairly easy course. Deco 1800 I think is a requirement. The second year Deco courses, people rag on Deco, it's not that bad, get over yourselves. Deco 2500 is not too hard and actually teaches some very valuable skills if you're going into the development space. But yeah, a lot of the first year courses are usually relatively easy.
I figured I'd add, I don't have any particular recommendations in mind, but look, anything you already know something about is going to be easier than something you don't know something about, right? So all the courses that I found the easiest were over in the math side, where some people said, oh, that's a really hard course. I happened to know some stuff about it beforehand, which made it comparatively easier than the, even introductory computer science courses that I was taking at the same time.
On that, prior knowledge, of course, incredibly important. But if you don't have interest in it, like, it has to be fun to you, it has to make you happy. And that's honestly going to be the easiest thing to do.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
I guess similar in the vein to CPG, Gray, and spaces and whatnot. Do you guys have any like daily routines or things that you do every day, or do you meditate or whatnot?
after quitting the fast food job where I worked until midnight, I found out that I really like going on walks, and particularly long walks and stuff. That's just something that I happen to like. Now, summer in Australia is really bad for long walks because it's stupid hot. And of course, you don't want to be walking around at night when who knows who is out. Evening time, when it starts to get cool, is also when my family eats dinner. So the only time that I have left is 4 a.m. in the morning. And it is absolutely like crazy to have gone from finish work and go to sleep at 1 to now go to sleep at 8 and wake up at 4. But that's what I do, and I start every morning by walking around for a bit, which gets me in a good headspace, makes me feel okay. It is also like the first time I'm doing exercise in 6 years, which is good. And then after that I come home, and there's this really cute cat that lives on my block, and I have trained it to know that I am not an enemy, and yes, I will feed it. So I get to pat a cat every morning, and that makes me happy.
I keep a calendar, and not just like a boring but one with enough space that I can write down my task for the day, and not just the uni ones, but also the fun ones, the things that I know will help me feel more relaxed and more ready for the other things in the day. And it keeps me accountable, and I feel good when I get to tick stuff off and I get to put a little sticker on it, and that kind of motivation is really important.
Yeah, to-do lists are great. I've been on and off, and it's sometimes doesn't work for me, but usually to-do lists are fantastic. In terms of general day-to-day things, exercise is really good for your mental health. If you're struggling and you're stuck at uni and you can't figure out a problem, when the lake eventually reopens, and not a puddle, walking around the lake is fantastic. And even just that, doing that a couple of times a day, if you have the time in your calendar, is great. If you own an iPhone, you're on iOS 16, the activity ring is for everyone, and you can. I try and make it a goal every day to close it. Android, I think Samsung Health's got it. Google Fit is available to download, but just trying to get that exercise up, trying to fit that somehow into your routine. Even just taking the bus stop previously and walking a bit extra, it's made so much difference to me, and I would highly recommend doing that.
For me, to maintain my routine, usually I use like Notion. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's like a great way of like sort of like having your things that you want to do for the day and then just crossing them off. It's like a rewarding system that I've created for myself. Whenever I'm like struggling with like burnouts or something like that, I usually go for like late night walks, just put my headphones on and then listen to my favorite music while nobody's around. So yeah, it's good. Yeah.
I think the theme of all of these is we all try to do things that are like stat buffs for the rest of your life, that just sort of buff everything at once instead of just focusing on specific areas. So another one's journaling. I journal a lot. I've heard there's all these stats around journaling will improve your grades even if it's completely irrelevant. Looks like answers here.
Yeah, in a similar vein to what everyone else has said. So I don't necessarily journal, but I do like to write at least once in my day. And another one is also walking. So walking really helps me. I love walking around. There's like a lake near my house, so I love walking around there and that sort of thing. But yeah, spending time in activities.
Awesome. I think that wraps up our panel, everyone. So I guess you guys can see the pizza, so we'll get that going. But yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.